Hello and welcome. This is the September 2013 video edition of the Iowa General Fund Monthly Revenue Memo. I am Jeff Robinson, Senior Fiscal Analyst for the Iowa Legislative Services Agency, the nonpartisan support agency of the Iowa Legislature. This video will cover Iowa net general fund revenue for the first 3 months of fiscal year 2014. I will also review the final general fund net revenue numbers for fiscal year 2013. Over the months of July, August, and September, Iowa net general fund revenue increased $61.9 million, up 4.1% compared to the same 3 months last year. September 30th fell on a weekday this year, while last year September 30th was on a weekend. This calendar event makes fiscal year 2014 net revenue growth appear about $15 million better than it really is through 3 months, meaning actual growth is around $47 million and 3.1%. Individual income tax revenue increased 3.7%, and sales and use tax revenue increased 3.1% over the 3 months. Gross corporate income tax revenue increased 18.3% for the first 3 months of the cash year. Let's now have a look at net receipts by month over the most recent 13 months. For the following charts, the underlying numbers have not been adjusted for any calendar or processing issues. Revenue increase months are colored blue and decrease months are red. Individual income tax revenue is the most significant source of general fund revenue, and over the past 6 months, gross individual income tax revenue increased 14.9%. The large increase is the result of very strong income tax return filing season this past spring, something that was in large part a result of tax law changes enacted at the federal level at the beginning of calendar year 2013. Sales and use tax revenue recovered from a soft patch for the months of March through May and has now expanded in each of the past 4 months. The 6-month growth rate is 1.3%. After posting very significant gains starting May of 2011, corporate tax growth has slowed, but the growth rate is still a strong 6.4% over the past 6 months. Iowa's fiscal year runs from July 1 through June 30, and that period represents what can be referred to as the cash fiscal year. However, proper accounting dictates that revenue that is deposited and refund checks that are issued after June 30th, but that are the result of economic activity that occurred on or before June 30, must be credited to that previous fiscal year. The process of accruing accounting transactions back to the previous fiscal year ends September 30, and it is only after that date that we get the final net revenue picture for fiscal year 2013. Fiscal year 2013 general fund revenue, net of tax refunds and including transfer revenue, totaled $6.769 billion, an increase of $457.7 million, or 7.3%. This table provides revenue growth by major revenue source. Note that for this table, revenue is adjusted for accruals and refunds are subtracted from gross receipts. This provides a true look at net revenue by major source on a fiscal year basis. We can see that individual income tax grew significantly during fiscal year 2013, increasing 13.5% from the previous year's level. Corporate tax, as well as sales and use tax, both expanded modestly. Other taxes, led by a $7 million increase in inheritance tax deposits, increased almost 5%. Non-tax revenue declined $24.8 million, entirely the result of a legislative change in the amount of gambling revenue deposited to the general fund in fiscal year 2013 versus fiscal year 2012. The March Revenue Estimating Conference, or REC, revenue projection for the year was $6.637 billion, so the final numbers were $132 million above that projection. This table provides the net revenue differences by major revenue source between the March REC projection and the revenue that actually arrived in fiscal year 2013. In dollar terms, the excess was due to better individual and corporate income tax receipts than projected. In summary, The first 3 months of cash fiscal year 2014 have shown firm growth on a net cash basis at 4.1% year over year, but on an adjusted basis, actual growth is more like 3.1%. Fiscal year 2013 concluded with $458 million in general fund revenue growth, $132 million above projections. Fiscal year 2013 growth was heavily weighted towards individual income tax, and the year was no doubt impacted by taxpayer behavior changes that were the result of federal tax legislation enacted at the beginning of calendar year 2013. I thank you for your time and your interest in Iowa General Fund revenue. Goodbye, and please check out the next monthly video memo in early November.